Hello folks, and welcome into the Truck King YouTube channel. This is the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada Pro-4X. This is the first time that the Armada gets the Pro-4X off-road treatment, so you know we got to put it to the test. In this video, we're going to go over all the features. I'll show you inside, out, and underneath, and then we're going to hit the trail, find the mud, rocks, and water, and see how it handles. Let's start with a walk around. So first, powering the Armada is a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6. This is the only engine you can now get with the Armada. And yes, it does replace that old V8, but this does have more horsepower and more torque than the outgoing V8. And it's sending that power through a 9-speed automatic. So this is the Pro-4X model, which means it's also getting a bunch of styling upgrades on top of the off-road stuff. So you're getting this big blacked out grille, a bunch of black accents like on the mirror caps, even up there on the roof rails, those are blacked out. And you are getting some lower fog lamps down there built into the bumper, which is nice. There's also some lava red accents on the tow hooks and those Nissan badges on these wheels. Now, talking wheels and tires, that is a set of 33-inch Yokohama Geolander ATs wrapped around a set of 20-inch wheels. So it'll be interesting to feel, the grip from those tires out on the trail. And right now, I want you to drop in the comments and just let me know, what do you think about the upgraded styling here on this 2025 Armada Pro-4X? We've got to talk towing and payload. So towing off of the hitch receiver, which is very well hidden underneath this big plastic cover, that's rated at 8,500 pounds. Payload, like usual, we will check the sticker over here on the door jamb, and it's rated at 1,444 pounds, which is quite a good number, especially considering this is an off-road focused package.
Hey folks, great news. You've seen us pitching giddy-ups before. Well, we ran out last fall. Now we have a whole new supply. These ones right here. Hey, these are the synthetic type. They only come in black in this design. However, these are bargain price, $25 a piece, or we'll sell you a set of 4 for $80. Listen, for anybody that needs a little help getting into their tall trucks or SUVs, giddy-ups can't be beat. So look for the link down below, click it, go right to our website. It's as easy as that. Get these in your truck today.
Let's take a look at the interior space on this Armada. This is honestly one of the main reasons you'd probably buy one of these huge SUVs. So first, I like to start with the baby seat situation. Here in the second row, we're getting lower latch on the driver and passenger side, but they put in one lower latch anchor here in the center. So that's going to allow you to have one baby seat here in the center position. It doesn't mean you can have 3 across using lower latch, but if you're only installing one car seat, the safest spot is always in the center, and that allows you to move that baby seat into the middle. So that is cool. And then in the back, you get one lower latch position on the passenger side, but there are 3 top tethers back there and 3 top tethers along the second row. So a lot of flexibility for the kiddos. Now I'll climb in. So this is just under 40 inches of second row legroom, and it's quite a bit. I stand at 6'2" and I fit in here okay. Headroom is just enough for me. My hair is literally rubbing on the roof, but it is enough. And if this massive sunroof wasn't here, it might actually be a bit better. Now, one thing I like to point out, there are many inches of adjustability here. This is as far back as it goes, but that's always nice as well. For amenities, I am getting my own HVAC controls down here with my own little screen, a couple of USB-C ports, and a 12-volt power right there, which is nice. So now why don't we climb in the third row? See how that looks. So this guy leans forward and then slides. And we'll pull it back. Oh, I gotta put my headrest up here. So this is listed at 34.5 inches of third row legroom. And legroom is actually enough. Here, I can even slide over so you can see it. But my knee room is right there, but it's enough for me. The issue is headroom. Yeah, I'm basically jammed into the roof up here. I could kind of squat down and maybe get comfortable, but headroom certainly leaves something to be desired for someone as tall as me. For amenities, I do get my own USB-C port over here, and there's one on that side. I like that I get my own HVAC vent up here in the roof, and I get a couple of cup holders. So yeah, for someone my size, this third row might be okay for short drives. I wouldn't want to be stuck back here for a long period of time though. Now let's go out back and I'll show you the storage. So crack the powered hatch. So Nissan says that behind this third row, you're getting about 20 cubic feet of storage. And yeah, it's not a ton, just enough for a couple of bags. I'll show you this under the floor. There is a little bit of added storage. And then under there, there's some extra tools. But I will show you that if you're not using this third row, you can really open it up back here, and it is all powered. So I'm able to use these switches over here on this side. Oh, nice. And they're one touch, which is nice too. And get that third row to fold down. And now we've opened up over 50 cubic feet of space, a massive amount of room. So if you don't need that third row, lots of storage. And I love that the third row is a 60-40 split. So maybe you need 2 kids, you can leave the 60 up, put the 40 down, or vice versa. So yeah, a lot of versatility with the third row here. And then a couple other things I'll point out. You are getting some nice little tie downs back here. Those are always handy for securing things. And up here, you are getting a little bit of power, only 150 watts, but yeah, still nice to have a plug at the back of your Armada. Now let's take a look underneath the Armada Pro-4X, starting with the tow hooks, and there are some nice big beefy tow hooks. Now they are pretty deep underneath the bumper, and you can see Nissan has attached them straight up to the frame rails, so you know they're going to be solid, but yeah, they're a little bit hard to get to when this thing is sitting on flat ground, no doubt about that. Now up here we have a massive license plate holder, and that comes back into our first skid plate, and I love to see this, basically no gap between this front fascia, which is plastic, and our skid plate, which is steel. That's my magnet to see what kind of material the skid plates are made out of. So this guy is steel. It comes back to our next skid plate, also steel, so nice to see. And then into our third skid plate, not steel. This is actually some type of composite plastic, and I'm okay with that, especially because this right here is going to take the majority of the beating off-road. If you're running over rocks or something, this is where you're going to get that hard hit. By the time you get back to this plate, it'll probably just be dragging across it. So yeah, I think this is actually a good case of use the steel where some of the major damage is going to happen, and then go for the composite plastic when it's more just, you know, dragging along something. Now, when it comes to the suspension upgrades, yes, we do have air suspension here, so you can see the shocks up in there and those big air cans sitting up on top of them. And this is fully independent suspension all the way around. Now, as we move back here, one thing I want to point out, just because we look at underneath a lot of vehicles, the size of these frame rails. These things are absolutely massive, way bigger than what I feel like we see on the majority of half-ton trucks and SUVs that we put up on here. So yes, it caught my eye right away. One other thing that caught my eye is right here, the transfer case and the fact that it doesn't have its own skid plate. Now granted, you get this cross member right here, which is protecting you pretty well, and it's tucked up quite a bit above the cross member. It's just rare that we see that. I feel like most brands, if they're gonna put a skid plate anywhere on a 4x4 setup, it's almost always on the T-case. And in this situation, it would not have been hard for Nissan to just put a little extra plate here on this cross member to help protect it. So yeah, I don't think it's particularly hanging down or in the way, but I just think that's a surprising choice based on everything else we see, that the T-case doesn't get its own skid plate. Now finally, we move back here and we get to another steel skid plate that is full length for the fuel tank. Love to see that. And then at the very back, you are getting a full-size spare tire hanging down underneath. show you the entire suite of cameras here, and a lot of them are good for off-roading. So first of all, we're actually gonna go down into 4 low. And when you do that, you'll see the camera system comes up automatically. So this is the first camera, and yes, that is a view underneath the vehicle. Now, like it says right there, it's not a live view under the vehicle. What it's doing is taking an image from just in front and then sort of superimposing it underneath. So as you drive over, you can get a sense for where your wheels and tires are. And you can see as you drive, the tires also turn to show you exactly which way you're pointed. I like that. I like this blue line to sort of give you a sense for where the front of your vehicle actually ends. And then when it comes to being out on a trail, if you want to place your vehicle really specifically, this is going to help. I also like that it uses the entire screen up here. That is cool. So now we'll go through the other views. So you get your top down and your front view right there. This is down the sides of the vehicle, and that is looking forward. So again, you can see those front tires. I like that. Here's your wide front, and again, using the whole screen. Not all vehicles do that, so I love to see that. There's your underbody view again. And then finally, you get this crazy 3D view, which, gives you this live 3D view of your vehicle. It's a little weird because the images around are kind of distorted. So yeah, these bushes look a little close here on the screen and stuff, but I think it's a neat view, and honestly, I think this is mostly going to be used in places like parking lots. In tight spots when you're maneuvering around, you need to figure out where you are in the lines or how close to a wall or other cars you are. So yeah, that's a pretty neat 3D view right there. And then finally, I will just put it in reverse, and you get basically the same suite going backwards. So the top down and the rear, the wide rear, and yes, those are looking, still looking forward at your front tires on the sides there. And then the wide rear, once again, which uses the whole screen, and you're getting those predictive guidelines, including the hitch. And then that's your hitching view if you are hooking up a trailer. So a massive amount of camera views here on this Armada. All right, folks, now the off-roading will begin. So we were actually out here this past weekend doing some work. So we tried to kind of smooth out the walls on the ditch crossing because we've been making a mess lately, just building up deep ruts. So we tried to beat down the ruts a bit. And then we also totally changed up the offset ruts. I will show you those soon. But for now, let's do ditch crossing. So I've got this thing in 4-wheel drive high, and I've also got it in mud and ruts mode. That means that the optional air suspension here has raised up to its tallest setting. That is 2.1 inches above standard height. And that means that the Armada gets 9.6 inches of ground clearance, a 33.9 degree approach angle, 25.3 degree breakover angle, and 24.3 degree departure angle. And yeah, an approach above 30 degrees and nearly 10 inches of ground clearance sounds pretty dang good. Still, we're gonna approach this with maximum caution, because the ditch crossing here, especially when it's bone dry, and right now it is bone dry, it's really a test of angles more than anything else and whether or not we're gonna have enough clearance. So we're just gonna creep into it here nice and slow. So far, so good, no problems. I haven't felt any rubbage out there at all. Cameraman Liam, front bumper looks okay. All right, feels fine from behind the wheel. Now, let's see, a little bit of slip there, but barely any. And up and out. Well, that was beautifully done. That was no big deal whatsoever. Very nice, Armada, loved that. Okay, so now, like I mentioned, we've changed up our next obstacle. So we've gone from a set of offset ruts to a set of offset mounds. So rather than down, under ground level, we've brought them up over ground level. The whole idea here was mostly for visual. It's a lot easier to see what's going on with the 4x4 system when we're up here above the ground. When we had our ruts, they would fill up with water, they would get muddy, and then also the weeds would grow in, and it was hard to cut with our bush hog on the tractor. So anyways, now we have these mounds, and this is the very first vehicle to tackle these. When we built them, we didn't have a good off-roader around to test them. So this is a test of the obstacle as much as the Armada. So right now, I'm actually gonna go over into auto mode. You have auto, 4 high, and 4 low. And in auto 4-wheel drive, it will actually start in two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and then it will send the power forward when it senses slip. And this is sort of the default drive mode. And yeah, I'm curious to see exactly how it works and exactly how fast it sends the power, and this should be a perfect test of that. So, creeping up and over the first one, touching the second one now. And right about here, we should start to lose grip. Let's see. Yeah, right there. Okay. Spinning, spinning. Trying to figure it out. Wow, it's not happy. Okay, stopping. Yeah, it could not figure it out where to get the power to, and then mostly it's also absolutely killing my throttle. It's not letting me apply very much throttle. So, first change is we will go over into 4 high, and I'm gonna put it back into mud and ruts mode. That's also gonna bring the auto air suspension back up. Now, I don't think it was a clearance issue as much as it's just a traction issue. But yeah, so now we're in 4 high, mud and ruts mode. Let's see if that makes a difference. Oh yeah, that made a big difference. Nice, Armada. So that just felt like, yeah, it was getting the power to all 4 wheels immediately. And because it's in mud and ruts, it allowed some power. Yep, the traction control is not killing my power right away. And obviously it knows it needs to split the power up. So it's doing that. Beautiful, okay. Well, I think that proves 2 things. The first one is that the auto setting is just okay, and I wouldn't use it in an off-road scenario. It's probably more for on-roads, slippery roads, you know, slightly wet roads, slushy roads, stuff like that. I think the one thing I'm disappointed in is that there's no true two-wheel drive setting here. Why can't I choose to go two-wheel drive and then go to 4 high and then to 4 low rather than just put it in auto? That's the only setting that allows you to access two-wheel drive. And actually, this is going to be a theme in this video. You'll notice Nissan is taking more choice out of the driver's hands, which, yeah, I think is a good and a bad thing. For someone inexperienced who doesn't care about this stuff, sure, put it in auto and then never think about it again. But for someone like myself, where I really want to control every aspect of my vehicle, especially when I'm off-road, I don't love that I just have that auto setting. I wish I had two-wheel drive and then auto and then 4 high and 4 low like a lot of trucks do. And same goes for the air suspension. The air suspension setup to me is just strange here. It has an auto button up here on the dashboard, so you can put it in auto. In auto, it'll be at normal height when you're cruising down the road. When you get over a certain speed, it'll drop down to aerodynamic height, which is nice. And then when you go into any of the off-road modes, it's gonna lift up. When you put it in park, it's gonna drop down to access mode. Like the name suggests, it's automatic. But once again, what if I want to pick and choose? What if I want to put the height up when I'm just in regular drive mode because I'm out on the road, I don't know, in the snow? Who knows what the scenario is? But again, personally, I like having more choice, and Nissan has gotten rid of that. So there's pros and cons. The biggest pro, set it and forget it. Put it in auto, never think about it again, and the vehicle should do what you want it to do. The cons are right there. I just said it should do. There might be a specific scenario where you want to tailor the settings to what's going on, and here, you can't do that. So with both the 4x4 system and the air suspension, Nissan is just trying to make it, you know, as simple as possible with auto settings, and I personally don't love it. I understand why they're doing that, but I just had to point that out because it's a big change with our off-roaders these days. All these auto settings and just giving the driver less choice to set that vehicle up how they want. Okay, folks, now we're back on road and we're actually heading over to another off-road spot to do some more dirt testing. But for now, I just want to feel the power. So I've got it in sport mode. I am here on a dirt road, so we'll see how this thing takes off. But I'm in auto, sport mode. Let's feel it. Nice. Oh, man. That is loads of super smooth turbocharged power. There was a beat of turbo lag, you know, you felt the real wave of power come on maybe a second or two after I put my foot to the floor, but man, when it hits, this thing is incredibly quick. And recently here on the channel, we tested the Chevy Tahoe Z71 versus the Toyota Sequoia TRD Pro, and it's equally as quick, if not a little bit quicker than both of those models. The Toyota has the benefit of the hybrid setup, so it gets that kind of electric push off the line. But yeah, sort of at full power, man, this Nissan absolutely feels quick for what it is, which is a big, massive, heavy SUV. Now, talking about just the way it drives down the road, controlled is one of the best words I can use. The suspension here doesn't feel too stiff. It also doesn't feel floaty or boaty or any of those words. Everything just feels nice and controlled. Going around a corner, just a little bit of body roll, but it's an absolutely acceptable amount of body roll to, allow the vehicle to be as comfortable as it is. So yes, what you want out of one of these big SUVs is exactly that, a comfortable, controlled ride, and that's what's going on here. Very akin to the Chevy Tahoe Z71. Of course, that thing also has air suspension, and it's better, I would say, than the Sequoia. The Sequoia is that big kind of floaty boat feeling SUV, more so than this Armada and the Tahoe. Now, there's a few features that really jump out at me. Of course, first of all, the massive screen array. We're getting over 14-inch over here in the center stack, and then the fully digital gauge cluster. They look really nice. There's a ton of controls here, so there's a lot to learn. But once you figure it all out, I feel like it's pretty well laid out. One of the interesting choices is this pad over here on the right side of my steering wheel. If you click this button, this now controls the center stack screen, so I don't actually have to go up there and touch the screen. If I click this left side button, it now controls my driver's side gauge cluster. So yes, it's the same set of buttons which can control either screen, just moving left or right. And same thing, at first it felt a little convoluted, but then actually I kind of like not having to always reach up here and touch the touchscreen. In fact, look, I stand at 6'2", I'm a big guy, I can literally just reach it. Now, of course, I can lean forward, but yeah, the fact that I can't reach it from a comfortable seating position is kind of crazy. So yeah, I can just use my pad here on the steering wheel to control everything up there. So definitely like that as well. And now, everybody, we're back off-road. Well, this is our local unmaintained town road. So, yeah, it used to be a road, but hasn't been maintained forever. So it's just a rough dirt road. There's some big old potholes on it. And normally, there is water out here. Right off the top, I said we'd find the water today, but I think I lied. I don't think we're going to find the water. It's been incredibly dry here in southern Ontario for the last month, maybe even more. So all the water and mud that we normally have is entirely dried up right now. So yes, nice and dry. Not great for the forest fire situation, but good if you want to avoid the mud. So anyways, I'm hitting it with a bit of speed right now, this road. I'm getting up to 35, 40 kilometers an hour. And things feel really good. Again, I'll come back to that word, controlled. The body is nice and controlled, but the suspension's also swallowing this trail up pretty well. It's a really nice balance, I would say, between stiffness and softness. And you got to chalk that up to the air suspension. And the thing with the air suspension is usually once you're in the higher height mode, the suspension gets stiffer naturally because that airbag is just totally stretched out. But here, I'm feeling that, but I'm not feeling it all that dramatically. Now, in fact, I am going to take it out of sand mode now and put it into just standard mode, because in standard mode, my height is going to drop down to that normal ride height, and that should actually give us a little more suspension. And I'm not concerned about the clearance out here right now. And yeah, I can feel the difference almost immediately. In normal mode, I just have a little more suspension. Oh, there's a low hanger. Yeah, a little more suspension, which means things just get a little bit smoother, and that makes me a bit braver and want to tackle this road at higher speeds. Now, we're on a hill here. This is actually a perfect chance to try out hill descent control here in our Armada. So let's do that. We'll put her back into 4 high. Hill descent control comes on, lifting, and there, my foot is off the brake right now. This is all Nissan. nicely controlling our descent, nice and quiet. I don't hear anything from the system at all. That's how these systems should be. And let's see, still creeping down the hill. I want to see when it kind of cuts out, because this system will sense the hill and then work until the hill is done right there. So basically, just as we got back to flat ground, oh look, the tiniest little puddle out here. Yes, we did find the water today. And through the water. But yeah, nice to have hill descent control. There's no off-road cruise control system like from a lot of other brands, but still nice to have the hill descent control here. So I think this kind of road is really indicative of where an owner of one of these SUVs might be going. I don't think anyone thinks this is a real kind of off-road vehicle, but yeah, if you own a cabin down one of these old, rough, beat-up cottage roads, this is exactly the kind of SUV you want, and it is absolutely owning this road. Now, from behind the wheel too, there's a few off-road goodies that are helping me out. So the first one, I do have a live all-wheel drive torque readout here. So that's showing me how much of my power is going where. So right now it's 50-50 front to rear. And yeah, I just like knowing exactly where this thing is sending the power. So that is handy. Then the one I've been using the most is over here. It's this off-road screen. So that's offering me an inclinometer. It's showing me, how steep the hills I'm on are. And then the other neat readout, and it's pretty unique, I don't remember seeing this from any other brand, is right below there's a readout that shows what the suspension is doing. So it shows how each shock is individually being compressed. Now, when you're moving along at speed, oh, there was a hard hit. When you're moving along at speed, I don't really see much of a need for that. It's not like you're taking that information and doing anything with it. I think when you're in slow speed, kind of low traction situations, or sort of tippy off-kilter situations, like when we went over our humps earlier, I think in those situations, yeah, maybe you can see, well, one shock is compressed, one shock is hanging down. It might give you a bit of a better sense for where your wheels are. For the most part, I think it just looks cool. And as you're driving fast down a road like this, you just see what your suspension is doing underneath you. So yeah, that's kind of a neat screen. And then an inclinometer. Those have become pretty standard in our off-roaders today, and it's always nice to have, to be able to say, yes, that hill I tackled was in fact 20 degrees or whatever the number may be. So yeah, now this probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways. This thing is massive. It's a huge, big SUV, and it feels big out here on the trail. One thing I don't like are the sight lines. The more I drive it, the more I realize this hood, it's very bulbous. It kind of comes up in the middle. It's got this big nose on it, and it's very hard to see or sort of sense where the front of it is, where that drop-off happens. And then, unlike some other SUVs and off-roaders especially, where you sit up tall, I feel like I'm sitting down a little bit kind of deep in this thing. So yeah, sight lines are not the best when you're trying to tackle tricky things like this. It's really my only complaint though. Overall, this is doing exactly what I want it to do. And once again, I'll compare it to the Tahoe and the Sequoia TRD Pro, because we had them out here on the same road. And it feels super similar to the Tahoe. And I want to say it feels a little bit better. It feels like I'm taking things at slightly higher speeds here than I was in that Chevy. And it's not getting quite as stiff as the Tahoe did. Oof, now I'm kind of maxing it out though. 40, 45 kilometers an hour. That's about as fast as you'd want to go out here. And then compared to the Sequoia, well, I do think the Sequoia TRD Pro is probably one of, if not the best, large SUV at high-speed off-roading. But the trade-off is it has that crazy, floaty, kind of disconnected feeling, which can be a little, off-putting from behind the wheel, too. And then when you're on-road, yeah, the Sequoia never feels like it goes through a corner very tight and controlled. So there are trade-offs there. Overall, I want to say the Armada feels like the best balance between the two. Tight and controlled while also being soft enough to hit this stuff with some pretty decent speed. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this video. Now, first, I have to drop the price on you. So here in Canada, this Nissan Armada PRO-4X is going to sell for around $97,000. And yes, that's expensive, but it actually undercuts both the Sequoia TRD Pro and the Tahoe Z71. So when you look at it from that angle, you're actually getting a decent bargain here, especially considering all of the upgrades you're getting. And one of the reasons I think these big SUVs cost so much these days is because they can basically do everything. They can tow big trailers, haul tons of people and stuff in comfort, and then you can go off-road on some pretty gnarly stuff. And thanks to all the upgrades, the suspension, the locker, the tires, these things are actually pretty competent out here. So yes, overall, I think Nissan did a great job with this Armada Pro-4X, and I'm just happy to see that they brought Pro-4X up here to the Armada, because when it comes to full-size SUVs, people can't get enough of these off-road packages, so this was definitely a smart decision. But now, I need to hear from you, so drop in the comments, let me know what you think of everything you've seen in this video. As always, while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join, become a member of Truck King, and then come right back here to the channel and see what we're testing next. See ya.